In Rome, the Senate and the people were celebrating in the streets after the Romans won the First Punic War, making them the most powerful state in the Mediterranean Sea. On the other side of the Mediterranean, there is Carthage. The Carthaginian Republic's sphere of influence decreased after losing to the Romans. The Carthaginians had to pay a massive sum of money to the Romans, lost Sicily, and later in a revolt in Sardinia and Corsica. This angered the Carthaginians, which they had to pay a sum of 2,400 talents of silver, but later was changed to 3,200 talents of silver. In modern time currency, it can be equivalent to 90 million United States dollars. On top of the debt to pay the Romans after the First Punic War, the Carthaginians also had to pay the merchants that they hired to defeat the Roman army. The merchants during the First Punic War made the total sum of 30% of the Carthaginian army at the time. These merchants came from all over the known world such as Germania, Hispania, Berbers, and the Numidians. When the merchants found out that they weren't getting paid, they plundered Carthage to get their form of payment. In Rome, the Senate launched a new campaign to have a foothold in the Greek world. This began around late to 30 BC. When they were fighting the Macedonians, it drew their troops from Italy to Greece, leaving only around 60,000 troops instead of the original 130,000 troops stationed in Italy before the campaign. Carthage was now in flames as their naval supremacy rotted away. One man saw the entire First Punic War, and Carthage, whom he loved, was in chaos. Hamilcar Barca. Hamilcar had a solution to repay the merchants, the Romans, and refill the Carthaginian treasury. He would expand to Hispania, otherwise known as Iberia. Iberia was a very rich region full of silver and gold. So after the approval of the expedition, Hamilcar Barca set for Hispania with 50,000 troops and his sons. 12,000 troops under Hamilcar was Numidian cavalry, which were the popular and most dangerous cavalry before the Romans. When Hamilcar expanded the territories in Hispania, it was a success. Hamilcar refilled the Carthaginian treasury and saved Carthage. To 28 BC, the great general of Carthage set out to expand the territory of Hispania under Carthaginian rule. He set out with 10,000 troops to march west. Hamilcar besieged a town called Hellas before he was cut down and drowned by local tribesmen. After this news of the great First Punic War general, who died in combat, he left the army in Iberia to his son, Hannibal Barca. As more silver mines were being built, the Romans saw this fast recovery of the Carthaginians. The Roman Senate started to worry. Rome had to do something in order to limit Carthage of their power. Many days later, into 26 BC, the Senate of Rome agreed to set a treaty of pact with Hannibal to not cross the river Ebra. Hannibal agreed and continued to expand the borders of the Carthaginian territory. However, into 19 BC, Rome saw an opportunity. Hannibal was marching for Saguntum. Rome saw Saguntum as key to expanding their sphere of influence to the Iberian Peninsula and a way to stop Carthage from expanding. Even though the city is not past the river Ebra, the Romans proclaimed if Saguntum was under attack, then there would be war against the Carthaginians. Carthage was terrified at this decree and ordered Hannibal to halt any advancement to Saguntum. However, Hannibal swore a blood oath to never be a friend of Rome, and so he ordered his men to attack the city-state. When Saguntum made an urgent request for troops, Rome ignored the request and watched what was unfolding in the Greek and Illyrian territory. While tensions rose in Rome and Carthage, there was another tension rising against Rome. Greece and Illyria were starting to hate the Romans. Many of the tribes in Illyria and the city-states in Greece were starting to form alliances against Rome for the expansion of the territories. Back in Saguntum, the Carthaginians swept up the forces in the city and proclaimed victory in the Iberian Peninsula. The Roman Republic sees this as a threat to their, quote, independent sovereignty. As a response to this action, the Roman Republic declared war on the Carthaginian Republic into 19 BC. Hannibal knew that the Roman Republic was a defensive and offensive force, both on land and sea. However, Hannibal looked at northern of Italy and saw a golden opportunity, one that would surprise the Roman army. Hannibal's army, before marching on, was composed of more than 100,000 troops with Numidian cavalry and the famous elephants. So, in late May, to 18 BC, Hannibal's army marched to the Alps, but first he and his army needed to cross the Pyrenees mountain. Minimum casualties were sustained during the crossing. However, when they were in Gaul or France, Celtic tribes were doing small raids against the Carthaginians. When they reached the Alps, it was a nightmare. Major raids from the Celtic tribes were common. Major casualties were skyrocketing due to ice breaking underneath soldiers and elephants. Heavy snowfall made the crossing very cold. When they crossed the Alps, it is said that a total of 40,000 troops made it through the Alps. After 4 months of crossing mountains, repelling Celtic tribes, and marching through dangerous paths, the Carthaginians would start the foundation of a series of raids and pillaging by the Carthaginians general and made Hannibal the mastermind of the Second Punic War in Italy. Make sure to like and comment on the video.